Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you're enjoying the session so far. So, dare to do what? You just heard, some of you probably heard our colleagues from Accenture talking about auditors, and the audit firm is here. So, we would like to share with you a story of what we are daring to do in a professional services firm trying to bring engineering to the core. So, today, in front of you, Dinkar. I'm the CIO and CTO for KPMG in Switzerland, and I have my colleague Marcelo, who heads the solution architecture practice in our company. And before we get into our story, one very important thing to understand is who we are, right? And KPMG is not a name not known to people, but Switzerland is an independent firm. We are a firm which is a part of a larger network of member firms. Globally, KPMG is a well-known Big Four company. Auditors, tax consultants, management consultants, and we are a member of a much larger organization across 140 countries. However, Switzerland offers a unique perspective. We are a nimble organization, not pretty large, around 2,500 people. But the interesting part is, in those 2,500 people live 56 different nationalities. So it's a fairly diverse workforce, not just in terms of where we come from, but with the kind of backgrounds we come from. And you put auditors, tax consultants, and now engineers in the mix, and you have really a recipe for some interesting change. And one other small part of this change, which is helping us a lot, it's a very young and dynamic company at heart. While these are 2,500 people, an average age of our colleagues is around 34 years, which makes us quite vibrant in terms of change. So we can drive a change. There's quite a lot of new thinking. And when we took up this challenge, one thing which struck me, I joined the firm about 1.5 years back, was that the ethos of this firm, our firm, reflected what I was enjoying in the DevOps community. Empower, inspire change, and dare to do, right? Breaking new grounds. And as a result, we took up this journey. And the journey started with something simple. What are we here for? We were not here for technology excellence or engineering, as both of us engineers would like to achieve. What we saw was that our CEO and our executive management, the ExCom and the board, were really after growth. So we made that growth our agenda. And if the firm dares to grow, which is embedded in our strategic document for the next 3 to 4 years, we made that change our agenda. So what we wanted to do through technology was become that engine of growth, because most of the growth that the firm was seeking was going to come from digital transformation, from our work in the digital business space. So we decided we will make change central to our strategy. And as a result, we made a little tweak to our key message from our CEO, which was change is an opportunity, right? And our business is change. Change is the business. We just adjusted it a little bit. Technology-led change is our business. And when it is technology-led, that means by default, practices that comes from DevOps movement, practices that come from reliability engineering, practices that come from technology industry at large, starts to take a central role in our transformation. And that's something that we pursued ourselves, that let's go ahead and try to make this work. But we had a problem. What are we after? And we had to make a choice, right? You can come in and start doing the nifty stuff of geeks, technologists, or you can just get immersed in supporting the business. And we thought, nah, that's not going to work. So 3 choices. So we really want to follow, how can we start improving in 3 spheres? One option was, we seek certain outcomes. Let's try to pay technical debt off in next 6 months. Let's try to move to cloud in few years. Let's have our ERP running on cloud. Or, no, from tomorrow, we are going to do this agile method. We will follow a particular approach to do reliability, a particular method we will adopt. But that's just process. Instead, what we chose was an identity-driven transformation. And we took our inspiration from Atomic Habits, because one of the things that struck with us was we really want to change our identity. And when we said we, it's technology's role in the business. We didn't want to stay just a function within the organization. That was the identity. This is the function which supports the business. So if you really want to bring a change, you can't live with that identity. You can do any process that you want, you can achieve any outcome you want, but you need to change that identity. And that's the pursuit we thought. And the identity was that we will be the torchbearers of a larger technology ecosystem in the company, not a function sitting on the side supporting somebody. And that was extremely important to us because this required some inspiration. And our inspiration comes from here. We really made our mission to turn the ship around. And that's been driving our change agenda since then. We started when I joined the firm in November 2021, and then around May last year, we started our journey to turn the ship around. And this story that you'll hear is what we have tried to achieve and the progress we have made over the last 12 months. So the first problem to deal with was the name. And most of the things what I've heard over the last 2 days is, ITS, it's a classic name in any enterprise, IT services. And as soon as you hear the term, it's like somebody sitting in the corner fixing my laptops or my infrastructure. And that's the real problem. So if you want to be intentional about your role in transformation, your name needs to reveal that intention. And that intention was, we are not a support organization sitting in the side, we are the business. And we are the business because if technology-led change is your business, then your name needs to reflect that. So what we did was, we said, let's start with where we can start to speak a different language. And that was the name. And that was going to be our identity. And we started with 3 traits that we wanted to achieve. 1, whatever happens in technology in this company will be towards business outcomes, value generation at the front, where we make money. Simple. Second thing, whatever will be done through technology, through engineering, through business value creation, will be service-oriented in nature, which means you'll not just offer services, but will deeply care about quality of service. Because when you have a service, quality of service becomes extremely important aspect. Whether it is reliability, whether it's performance, whether it's maintainability, whether it's the experience that our users get from those services. And finally, come what may, never leave the pursuit of agility. Always be agility-centric, being able to respond to changes, whether it comes from within the firm or external environment. And as a result, that was the first change we made. We started calling ourselves digital business technology. And that is an ecosystem, not the name of the function. While the central function within corporate is called the DBT, but the entire ecosystem is called DBT. So when somebody talks about technology at KPMG in Switzerland, we do not talk about IT services. We talk about digital business technology. And that started to change quite a lot of things because it started to clearly to reflect the fact that technology means business within the firm. And then we went ahead and say, how do we do it? And the point was pretty simple. We can't do it alone. And of course, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have a community to fall back to. So we both are an avid member, participants, and follower of Enterprise DevOps community. So we didn't have to look far. We had our backs covered. So we picked up 3 things to drive our journey. The first one, there was a very serious and extremely important pursuit about moving to products. Now, that was an interesting challenge, again, dare to do products in a services industry, and that to professional services. That's another daring thing. Second, we are not going to organize ourselves hierarchically, but we looked at team topologies so that we are orienting towards how to deliver values and adopt some of the mechanisms there. And last but not the least, we made, John's not here, but John's better value, sooner, safer, happier as our centerpiece. So you will see some examples of how we are trying to do that, but that's our guiding philosophy. We are trying to deliver better value, sooner, safer, happier. And we also wanted to ensure that we maximize our leverage with what we have heavily invested in, which is our cloud with Microsoft. We are a strategic partner with Microsoft, and with all the innovations that Microsoft brings there, we wanted to ensure we are maximizing this with these 3 changes. So what happened next? All of this is good. However, there is a problem. We are a company which has been in existence for 113 years. We are not FANGs. On the other hand, we are also not a one-app startup. So this is what we call as, both of us, the middle class problem. We belong to what is the enterprise space, the middle class. We are not the FANGs, not Google, not Amazon, not the scale, the complexity, the engineering talent, not the money of this group, and also not the lesser risk that comes with doing one thing. You're not a startup who's trying to exploit, so the associated risks are different. There is a very strong and glorious legacy. There is a brand name. There is trust in the market, which the firm represents. And on the other hand, we see the promise of the glorious future, what continuous innovation, technology, what digital will bring to the firm. So how do you deal with this tension? Because the tension is not just of methods and technology, but we see it as a generational gap. And it's extremely difficult to pitch this generational gap. We have some of our colleagues, extremely knowledgeable, some of them have actually seen the evolution of how audit works, how tax works. They've been in this industry for 40 years. You want to bring them along. And then there are newer colleagues who are now coming out of college and trying to join us and see how digital helps them deliver better. And how do you bridge this tension between these two groups? The practices of older generation, newer generation. And you want to maximize the potential that exists in both. And this is definitely an area where things like choices, trade-offs, things like that start to come in. Things like learning start to come in. So what we did was, okay, we'll not make technology our pursuit. And we went in with the strategy which I call sustainable business agility. And this is what I was after. And as a result, this is what we as a firm were after. Our pursuit was to achieve what we call sustainable business agility. Nothing new as a term, but three very important words. It's agility, but within the business, not technology, not agile methods in IT. And second, that lasts, that can sustain changes that will come through the cycle, right? And that's a very important word, which is a language we have started to speak very heavily within the firm. And this should address all aspects, whether it is risk management, whether it is how we respond to the requirements coming from the market, how well we align with our global strategy. As I mentioned, we are not an independent firm sitting somewhere. We are part of a global network. And finally, at the end of it, the business is there to be financially viable. How do you ensure that that's being taken care of? And in order to do that, we also want to ensure we stay true to the three traits, which is part of our identity. And that formed up what are our key levers to work with. And that's what we are working on, the three levers on which we work. How are we going to organize ourselves to deliver this promise? How are we going to structure ourselves? What kind of methods we are going to use? What kind of interactions we are going to do? The classical governance mechanisms, talent, what kind of talent we'll need, how trainings will be done. Second, the ways of working. And that's where a combination of lean, agile, DevOps, there are a lot of methods there. How are we going to use that? And finally, how are we going to intentionally design our systems and use technology so that that can help us fulfill the promise? So our work that now we will walk you through is essentially on these three dimensions. And at the intersection of three, there's not linearity. You don't do one another. You will see that the efforts actually go across all three, and then we start to see a change. However, before we go into any more detail, the first thing that we wanted to challenge was that we don't get affected by the favorite Conway's law. And our HR and our organization structure starts to decide how we are going to design our systems. So that's the first problem we tackled. And Marcelo, maybe you want to walk us through that, and then we'll come back.
Yeah. So, as Dinkar mentioned, Conway's law is a fact for all of us. We know that it happens, it will happen, it is happening right now. So what you can see right now is how our firm is structured, how our firm do business, how KPMG Switzerland delivers value to their clients, and how we have a lot of teams supporting those client-facing functions inside KPMG Switzerland. So we are basing ourselves on well-grounded source of knowledge. So we did a small twist on how we wanted to structure DBT in order to deliver the value that was expected from us. So we got our client-facing teams, we got our business support services teams, our corporate services teams, and we structured them as stream-aligned teams. We created a services delivery platform team that can deliver all the infrastructure and all the services that are required by those stream-aligned teams to do their business. in order to enable those streamlined teams, we created a different team that would provide the cross-cutting services that are used by those streamlined teams, things like enterprise content management, identity and access management, workflow automation. So every single piece of software technology that are required, that are common and required by the streamlined teams, and to support, to enable all of those different teams to stand out and deliver, we created an enabling service team providing all the engineering foundations, sorry for that, all the good practices, all the training, all the knowledge that are required for them to deliver. So we followed the inverse Cohen maneuver to enable collaboration, modularity, agility to all of those things driven by design and architecture and inspired by domain-driven design.
This is very important to us because what we did was, mostly when we do team designs, we go within a particular area and try to design teams in small. We actually dare to do it at an organization level. So our business is where the value gets delivered. So stream-aligned teams become quite interesting there. However, that's not the start, because individually within each of these portfolios that you see, the four major segments, you will see different types of teams getting organized. To give an example, at the platform level, the service delivery platform has an internal enabling team, a center of enablement which supports the entire delivery of work that happens through the stream-aligned teams within the platform. However, at an organizational level, our value streams towards our clients and towards us as employees are delivered through the business services portfolio that we see in front of us. So this is something that's ingrained in our systems now. It is reflected in our technology, the way it is organized, in our DevOps systems, in our budgeting process, and this is extremely central to how we are organized and operating now.
Okay, and to allow proper communication, proper support, and proper conversations between all of those teams, we also followed the concept, the idea of team APIs, and these enable the teams to look at themselves and define the proper ways of communications between the team and amongst the other teams. And this is where we brought the concept of treating people and technology as a single entity, as a single social technical ecosystem. And they are able to communicate, to exchange ideas, to exchange pain points, to raise debts and risks in a common way.
Yeah, one of the very important part of this reshaping was what we call talent recomposition. We had the talent. In some cases, there were gaps. However, what we did was we wanted to achieve the bias for action. We wanted more doers and lesser orchestration and coordination. So over the last 12 to 15 months, there's been an explicit effort around reshaping our talent. A lot of engineers joined the team. Architecture, a capability which was quite minimal in our firm, we enhanced that quite a lot. However, all the architects are engineers at their core, and they take up architectural responsibilities. And what we started to see was a good balance between what Bain calls watchers, doers, and thinkers. And these three capabilities exist in our portfolio in a nice balance now. However, the need for action, the bias for doing is prevalent in our team. So we have quite a lot of us now who are doers, which is extremely critical for us to deliver engineering as we want it to be.
And as part of this restructuring, or this new way of seeing the recomposition that are required to proper delivery, proper deliver our products, we worked with the concept of a multidisciplinary team, which is essentially a group of people, cross-functional. So we have people with experience, more experience on the business side, people with more experience with the technology side, but they are a cohesive unit that focus on product, focus on quality, focus on user experience, on the product experience that are delivered by what they are doing. And this group of people, our product triangle, as we call it internally, is autonomous, is responsible for everything related to a product or service, and is accountable for all of those dimensions: quality, experience, and value.
Exactly. I think this is a term we use within the company. We called it freedom in a frame. So the framework provides the guidance for these teams to exert autonomy. However, that autonomy is not unbounded. It needs to be aligned so that the overall system benefits, the overall firm benefits.
And then this is where we bring the concept, as Dinkar mentioned, center and front, the better values, sooner, safer, and happier. So the idea is that, a bit inspired on the Agile Manifesto, so we know that we have some things that we need to stop doing, and at the same time, we need to leverage the important things that we know that are required to deliver the value, the experience, and the quality that is needed for our products and services. So we had to focus on some aspects first. So engineering over tools. So really the engineering mindset to be built into our community inside DBT. And at the same time, acknowledging and reducing technical debt.
Yeah, it's that balance between supporting the business outcomes that start going in, but also improving the maturity of our engineering organization. And that's again a trade-off. But our traits inspire us to balance these priorities, right? At certain time, prioritizing business outcome delivery more, on the other hand, ensuring our maturity. But the framework of BVSSH gives us more or less the guidance when we have to make these choices instead of going all around the place and seeking out what should we do. So this is extremely central to us. Of course, we are informed by OKRs as a framework, but again, this is used for our teams to inspire the ambitions. More like we set aspirational SLOs. The OKR is more in that direction. This is something that you aspire to achieve, not your performance appraisal. So that's extremely important thing. And this framework is essentially our operating rhythm. This is what we operate with Agile when it comes to how we do Agile, DevOps, and Lean within our company.
Yeah, it is our operationalized DevOps system.
Exactly.
So it is our operating system inside DBT.
I think we're running out of time, so maybe we focus on a few things. Carry on,
services,
please.
Yeah, sure. Platform services. So we started building an infrastructure or delivering an infrastructure as a service that would bring to all of our teams the required services that they would need from an infrastructure perspective. So VDIs, networking, cloud services, or on-prem services in a way that is completely transparent to them, that is agnostic to them. So they can only connect to a string-aligned team, can easily connect to the platform services team via their team API and request whatever they need in order to deliver the value that they need to do.
Exactly. And right, we are at the start of the journey. However, the platform is heavily focused around automation. So slowly over the next few years, we'll see the significant reduction is how it is served right now and be moving completely to an API-based interface on front of our platform. And there are well-defined service streams, and each service is offered as managed interfaces that the other teams will use. so that they can automate their platform consumption and also self-serve whenever there is a need. So this is a journey which we have given ourselves up to 3 years to reach a certain stage, and we are at the early stage of this journey. But the intent is very clear. The platform is going to be a managed product within the company. So just like you saw the MDT triangle, we have a team owning platform, a product manager, an engineering manager, and an architect who's responsible for our platform services, and the team with them, of course.
Yeah.
However, there are certain things which we were a little careful of, because as a firm, you need to take care of things like data migration. People forget when moving to cloud. Yep, you don't just move virtual machine, you need to take care of data. So there are a few things we had to consider, but in interest of time, maybe we'll have to refer to it later, and we'll be happy to have a chat around that.
Yeah,
Marcelo.
happy to. And the other aspect that adopting this DBT lifestyle allowed us to do is that we now are able to have conversations with all the main stakeholders, being stakeholders, other teams, being stakeholders, our XCOM, being our stakeholders, Dinkar and Marcus, our COO, based on data. So we can show them, look, this is the number of depths that we have. These are technical depths that we have. This is the number of risks that have been raised. This is the amount of risks that have been mitigated. This is the amount of features that have been delivered since our last conversation. So we are heavily focused on important metrics, DORA metrics, flow metrics. We have dashboards that show all the work flowing from the value streams, and we can pinpoint at any point in time what is happening, why it's happening, and which actions are required to move from them. The other point that is important is, as we focus on the platform services heavily, so we could enable the teams to deliver, to operationalize their delivery.
Absolutely.
So focus on post-mortems, focus on preparing proper operational practices that they can use internally or that they can expose externally. How things are working, why they are done on that way, what is the architecture and design that grounded those decisions. And when we talk about architecture, we also adopted a very lean, structured, grounded on reality approach to architecture. Okay, so we have the architecture team, we have the enterprise architecture and the solution architecture team, and for them, we are working based on advisory. So we have an advisory board that helps all architects to deliver the value. We have a technology repository where they can find all the information that they need. We have some lean ways of documenting, so every decision generates an architecture decision record that's founded with our advisory board. So in that way, we want to have disciplined, agile, lean architectural practices. And learning. Everything that we do is grounded on learning, on sharing information, sharing knowledge across the firm. So community of practices, we started with the architecture community of practice. We have a lot of engagement on the architecture community of practice. It was followed by an agile community of practice, which leads us to a DevOps community of practice. And just 2 or 3 weeks ago, someone approached me and said, look, Marcelo, I want to start a development-oriented community of practice. Can you help me with that? Now we have 4 community of practices that help us share knowledge and share learning across the whole DBT landscape. We have a internal social media presence as well. So we have a technology platform that enables us to share knowledge with the whole KPMG Switzerland firm. We do architectural katas, we do katas into all community of practices. We have mentoring programs where we, Dinkar, can help youngers or more senior members of our firm to deliver value, to learn. And there is also one particular passion that comes from Dinkar.
Yeah, let me talk about it a little.
That he will talk
That's
about.
something, I'll just quickly sound, that's called tune-in. It's something which, well, I can say in this case, I was a little passionate about. I started when we came in. It's an explicit timeout for learning within office hours. Every Friday from 11:30 to 12:15, I read a book on a Teams channel, and whoever is interested joins in and they listen in. So they tune into a reading session. This helps them. I don't need their time on their weekends and their evening to read. I don't force them to read. If you're interested, come, we'll read together. I'll read it for you. And I started, and there were only 6 people who joined, and right now I'm talking about 40 to 50, and it's increasing. And this is not just IT folks. HR, legal, data privacy officers, colleagues from other countries. So this is gaining traction, and it is something I'm really, really happy about. And we really look forward to having something as simple as that, storytelling as a powerful way to learn. So with that, I know we are out of the time, but quickly I'll try to give you a quick gist of what we have learned. All of this is good. But one thing which we observed, and I think it's also clear on the session over the last 2 days, is you need to be clear on what kind of impact are you seeking, right? If you're looking at transformation, recomposition, you need to figure out up to what extent you want to go, because the leverage keeps varying. And the body is same, your organization is same, but how deep you want to dig into that depends on your objective, what kind of change you want to bring in. And can you influence just by practices? I'll start using Azure DevOps, I'll use a certain way to do lean, I'll use flow metrics, all of that is fine, certain practices to deliver. But we need to be careful, those practices are informed by how our systems are designed, how our technology is shaped. That in turn is shaped by what is our organizational context, how budgeting happens in your company, who takes decisions, what kind of culture is there. And at the end of it, the very core is what kind of belief system is it there in the company, right? So depending on the extent of change you want to bring in, you may have to dig way deeper than just implementing an agile practice or implementing domain-driven design as a design method. So be very careful, there are different levers. And that means the time it takes to achieve outcomes from that also varies. It's very, very critical. And so some learnings that we wanted to share with you so that we can reflect together. The first one, it's not about dev and ops. There is a much larger set of people who work for a company. And if I leave them aside also, there is HR, there is finance, there are other people. Even within the so-called IT sphere, there are other things to be done other than coding, testing, and development. Right? There is asset management, there is compliance, there is sourcing, procurement, many things, and you can generate value for your firm by following DevOps, SRE, and any kind of principles. We saw earlier that SRE can be applied to learning. You can apply the same principles to get benefit value generation in any area. So don't forget those. For a company to be successful, these are very important. Second, pay very, very close attention to the learning anxieties and cognitive load on your colleagues. There is a big risk you're burning them out. We experienced this firsthand, guilty. In some cases, I found I was running too fast. As a leader of the pack, I had to take care of this. Be very careful of this. Change can become a burden. Be very careful. These are people. And that's the message. Be ready to modulate your pace. Not everybody runs at the same speed you want to run. Not you can run, but you want to run. So be very, very careful, right? And once you start to get signals, be ready to modulate your pace. Be humble. You can only run as fast as the rest of the organization. So be very careful. It's a team game. It's not an individual win. Very important for us. And this is where flow framework comes in. Make technical debt and operational risk a first and a very explicit priority. Not just in the team talks, but when I present to my XCOM, when I present to my senior colleagues in partnership, I talk about this stuff. And if it is not talked about, nobody cares for this. Make this part of your language, right? And this is the other one. You can give people autonomy. You can take autonomy. But if it is uncontrolled, you are going to result in unmanageable complexity. So do not undervalue governance, right? It's very important, especially in enterprise context. Do not undervalue it. There are significant implications of not doing governance right. And last but not the least, language. That is leadership. Change the language if you want to change the culture. If you really want to change the culture, our only takeaway for the last year is start speaking a different language. Things start to change there. You can change your practices and everything, but your language doesn't reflect the intent, the aspiration, what you want to do. That's why I turned the ship around. The whole simple message on that book was, I am not asking for permission. I intend to do this. Do you see an issue with that? That fundamental change in the language is very, very critical. But more than anything else, two important things. Deliver on your commitments. Delivery changes everything. And please, please, please be patient. Patience and perseverance pays. Stay with this. So we are already way out of our time, but I cannot leave without saying you this. So if you are willing to dare, if you dare to do, and you want to be Sam, who has to go and conquer the world, absolutely, you have all the IT Revolution books in your packet, benefit from it. But there are three things we found over the last 1 year which are extremely critical if you really want to succeed. First of all, embrace cultural change. If you cannot deal with culture, go back, rest everything can wait, start working with this. You need to embrace the diverse culture that exists in your company. That's something you may want in your back pocket. Second, be very clear. It's easy to learn new things. Letting go of the past and unlearning is the toughest part. Have that in your back pocket. And last but not the least, if you're only after efficiency, fine, you can do work downstream in your local space, in your area. But if you're really looking for effectiveness, go upstream. Start looking for what's causing what I'm dealing with. Do not keep running and putting up fires. Start looking at what is causing fire. And that's where you need to leave IT, technology organization, and go upstream, sometime even outside your organization. And that's going to come in very handy. So with that, that's what we are looking for. Two very specific things, of course, other than the connection. As I said earlier, it's not about just DevOps stuff. We are both hardcore engineers for many, many years now. But we realized there are a lot of companies, and we are in that, where there are some things which we call not entirely dev shop. Not everything is coded here, built here. And we would love to see experiences how DevOps is getting applied, where not everything is coded here. And second, product orientation in a service industry. Something that we would like to seek feedback on.
Please.
So with that, thank you very much. It was just a start for us. We do promise to come back. And hopefully we'll make it a successful journey to share that with you coming through. Thank you very much.
Thank you.